Hi students. All right, so today we're doing 1.10, the Enlightenment, Rococo, and Naturalist art. You can get there through the plan by clicking more. That'll take you right to the content link. The artistic style known as Rococo. Okay, you know what? I just realized we've got to take a quiz too. So let's go ahead and click on our breadcrumb trail. Let's go back here and right click on the quiz. We got to open that link in a new window, okay, and get that started. Start your quiz and then size it down so that you can still see all of the questions and you still have a scroll bar handy. Perfect. And then you could just size down your other window so that you'll be able to see both your quiz and your lesson. Perfect. All right, now we can do it. Okay, first question says, what is a common subject of naturalist art as seen in paintings by Jean-Batiste, Simeone, Shardene? Common subject, would that be ordinary people engaging in everyday activities, elaborately dressed people engaging in leisurely activities, heroic figures in historical scenes, or idealized portraits of royalty and aristocratic people? What's your hypothesis? Question 2. What is a characteristic of Rococo painting as seen in the work of Antoine Watteau? Is it the use of solid areas of color with little variation? The depiction of elegant parties set with idyllic landscapes? Precise smooth brushwork with no individual strokes visible? The depiction of figures in twisted distressed positions? What's your hypothesis? Question 3. What is a characteristic of paintings by Jean-Batiste, Simeone, Shardene? Is it the depiction of objects with a sense of realism? The depiction of stylized and exaggerated figures? The depiction of scenes that avoid teaching a moral? Or the depiction of light and color in an artificial way? What is your hypothesis? Let's find out. The artist style known as Rococo began in France during the early 1700s and spread to other European countries from there. As subject matter, Rococo emphasized romantic love over epic or religious themes. With its rich color palette and flamboyant detail, Rococo is considered by many art historians to be a natural outgrowth or a final phase of the Baroque period. And this is Pilgrimage to Cythera by Antoine Watteau from 1717 to 1719. He painted that. Goals for this lesson are to identify distinguishing characteristics of Rococo and Naturalist art and architecture, and to identify how works of Rococo and Naturalist art and architecture reflect the beliefs of their time and place. The Age of Reason, l'âge de raison. During the 17th and 18th centuries, new discoveries and ideas swept through Europe like a tidal wave. The great scientific minds of the day, including Galileo Galilei, Johannes Kepler, and Isaac Newton, launched a revolution with their analytical observations of the world around them. They determined that nature, and by extension, the universe, operated in a rational manner that could be quantified by using mathematical principles. Their findings marked the birth of modern mathematics, physics, and astronomy. Meanwhile, other scholars, such as English philosopher John Locke, pondered whether there might also be rational laws that applied to the world of human interaction. They gained inspiration and confidence both from the ancient Greeks and Renaissance humanists who had used reason as their guide, and from the numerous breakthroughs occurring in the physical sciences. Political theorists began to examine and question all aspects of the social order, from the power of kings to the role of religion. The period from the 1600s through the late 1700s thus became known as the Age of Reason, or simply as the Enlightenment, because so many thinkers believed that logic could illuminate truth. John Locke believed natural law governed the moral order of the universe. Louis XV, French society and transition. For much of the 18th century, Louis XV ruled France as an absolute monarch from his opulent palace in Versailles. Versailles. Whoops. He and his court enjoyed lives of almost unimaginable luxury, financed by a heavy tax burden on the country's disenfranchised working class. Louis XV preferred a fanciful, luxurious style of architecture and design known as Rococo, as seen in these interiors of his Versailles palace. Louis XV, Voltaire, and the Age of Enlightenment. The inequity of the state of affairs in France angered many French intellectuals of the time, foremost among them a philosopher and prolific writer who used the pen name Voltaire. Inspired by Newton, Locke, and Benjamin Franklin, Voltaire criticized the king, the aristocracy, and the Catholic Church, the richest institution in France, for their imperious treatment of the masses. He also ridiculed church beliefs and practices that contradicted reason. Such opinions, often rendered in a satirical voice, were considered to border on treason and heresy, and Voltaire was in trouble with secular and religious authorities throughout his life. He lived abroad in voluntary exile for many years. Still, his ideas resonated with Europe's Enlightenment thinkers who sought to reform the framework of political and religious power and to restructure the very foundations of society. Antoine Watteau and Rococo art. Looking at the paintings such as Pilgrimage to Cythera, one might not realize the change occurring in French society. Even as Enlightenment thinkers voiced their criticisms, French royalty and aristocrats supported an extremely ornate style of art and architecture called Rococo during the early 18th century. French artist Antoine Watteau from 1684 to 1721 exemplified the Rococo style. Characterized by pastel color schemes and delicate brushwork, Rococo typically features fanciful settings and subjects, as well as light-hearted themes of romantic courtship and the leisure activities of the upper class. Watteau and other French artists during this period produced charming pictures of elaborately dressed ladies and gentlemen in whimsical surroundings. Fête Galante. In 1717, Watteau presented Pilgrimage to Cythera, also called Embarkation to Cythera, to the French Academy of Fine Arts, the most prestigious art school in Paris. Its subject matter and execution were so novel that the Academy's directors coined a new term to describe the genre, Fête Galante, a type of painting developed by French Rococo artist Antoine Watteau, literally meaning gallant party. It pictures an elegant party set in an idyllic landscape. Why, I think that was one of our test questions, wasn't it? It says, what is a characteristic of Rococo painting as seen in the work of Antoine Watteau? Why, that is the depiction of elegant parties set within idyllic landscapes, the Fête Galante. Very good. Watteau's painting depicts a group of young aristocratic men and women on their way to or from, historians don't agree, the Greek island of Cythera, the mythological birthplace of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. In Pilgrimage to Cythera, Watteau presents a fanciful view of an idyllic landscape in which young couples are going to or from the mythical isle of Cythera, birthplace of Aphrodite, ancient Greek goddess of love. Watteau depicts flirtatious young couples. He studied human anatomy closely and made many sketches of the human body in the most refined, elegant poses, perfectly suited for this subject. The young couples are either departing for or returning from Cythera. Here you see the ornate golden boat that transports them, oarsmen at the ready. Imagine the red silk pennant as it flutters on open water. Winged cupids encourage the amorous activities of the young couples and lead them to the jagged island of Cythera in the distance, shrouded in mist. Watteau used delicate yet lively brushstrokes to create the figures and natural elements of his painting. He also captured subtle variations of color, creating vivid foreground figures that are set against a mysterious, misty background. Watteau, a closer look. Watteau's style was inspired by theater and ballet. In fact, his art teacher designed and created sets for stages and passed on a love of theater to the eager student. What elements of this painting indicate that Watteau's work was influenced by stage productions? Let's take a look. Notice how the figures in this painting are wearing costumes and party dresses instead of everyday clothes. Imagine the texture of the luxurious fabrics, silk, satin, lace, and velvet that the figures are wearing. The lush landscape and pastel-colored, iridescent sky provide a pristine backdrop for the couples caught up in the excitement of a journey to find love. Jean-Baptiste Simeone Chardene and Natural Art. The same aristocrats who favored the ornate Rococo style also commissioned works in a very different style, one that was down to earth. While Voltaire believed the future of man was in scientific reason, another philosopher of the day, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, claimed that human emotion is most important. To Rousseau, nature should guide people. This new taste for the natural led some artists to break from Rococo art, which they saw as artificial. Jean-Baptiste Simeone Shardene was a leading French artist of this new style. He was born in Paris and lived there his entire life from 1699 to 1779. As a young man, Shardene, like Watteau, was admitted to the French Academy of Fine Arts. But unlike his fellow Frenchmen, Shardene dedicated himself to genre paintings. Do you remember what those are? Scenes of everyday life, showing people engaged in routine domestic activities such as doing laundry, preparing meals, or playing cards. All his works were executed in a naturalistic style. Naturalism, relating to a style of art in which the artist renders subjects the way they appear in the natural world. His skill with a brush and meticulously layering oil paints gives his subjects a consummate air of realism. In Grace Before a Meal, notice how a delicate light plays across this family scene. I think we have a question related to this. It says, what is a characteristic of paintings by Jean-Baptiste Simeone Chardene? And let's see, it says the depiction of objects with a sense of realism. Very good. And we have one last question. Yes, we're looking for the subject matter. Is it ordinary people engaging in everyday activities? Genre paintings, that's what those are. That's my guess. It's definitely not elaborately dressed people. They're not heroes and they're not royalty. So, system of elimination. Let's see here. Chardene, genre with moral values. How does Chardene emphasize that this is a scene of everyday life? The subject's clothes are plain, not opulent and ornate as in Watteau's Rococo paintings. The setting is also simple and casual with children's toys scattered about. The walls are unadorned, and the dishes, tablecloth, and furniture are clearly not the trappings of an aristocratic family. The pyramid configuration of the figures adds to a sense of tranquility. Yes, remember that pyramid configuration? It's a way to organize an artwork using the geometric shape of the triangle, giving an artwork a sense of harmony and stability because the base of a triangle is very solid and grounding. In all its naturalistic simplicity, Grace Before a Meal teaches moral values, a theme preferred by the naturalists. Here, a mother and her two children say a prayer before dining. In Grace Before a Meal, Chardene placed his subjects in a pyramid configuration, thereby achieving a sense of harmony and stability. Oh, there's that triangle. Color and light. Chardene's Naturalism. A soft light fills the painting. The light falls on the table and shines on the family's faces. Shadows dominate the area behind and underneath the table, as well as the folds of clothing. With his expert use of subtle light and shadow, Shardene could make scenes of ordinary life appear extraordinary. Shardene employed a limited palette of natural colors, browns, grays, muted reds, throughout the paintings to create a sense of harmony. Notice how he depicts light dancing across the surface of the copper pot on the floor that holds coal for warming the room. Within the orange-brown surface of the pot, he added rich variations of brown as well as patches of white to show reflecting light. Where else do you see examples of Shardene's mastery of the effects of lights and color? And that concludes 1.10. Make sure that you save your responses and submit your quiz. Good job!